right, stand-up comedy. Isn't it great? Until you're the one up here. Tom approached me just a couple weeks ago, asked if I wanted to give it a try, and I was like, I'd rather book a colonoscopy. So I hope you go easy on me. It's my first time at stand-up, comedy virgin, right here. You know, and since I only had 2 weeks to prepare, the real problem for me was there's only one joke that I've ever made up myself, and it's not even funny. So I realized I'm going to get up here. I'm going to last about 30 seconds. That's only slightly longer than I did my first date in a bedroom. But this time, if I got a laugh, at least I'll appreciate it. Okay, so here goes. Here's the one and only original joke that I invented, which, despite the protest of my wife, I still like to tell today. So, here goes. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Zoo. Zoo coming in to go poo. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're really looking at that awkward, uncomfortable stare. But I tell you, anyone under 12 loves that joke. They think it's hilarious. I've got them in stitches at the word poo. But I get it. You're more mature. And perhaps for you guys, since you're not 12, this is Tom, 18 plus, right? You said on the bill, that was the kind of criteria. So I guess, you know, since you don't find it funny, I guess I'll just have to explain it. So imagine, here you are. There's a knock at the door. You open it up, and lined up in front of you, like Noah's Ark, 2 by 2, one of every species: hippopotamus, rhinoceros, elephants. The mess. That would be shitty. Okay, Tom, so, you know, he gave me this advice for getting up here tonight. He's like, Malcolm, 2 things to be successful: toilet humor and swear words. But it's true. We tend to laugh about things that we're uncomfortable about, right? And which for adults, we definitely get uncomfortable about poo. I mean, even just saying the word, we have to come up with code words. Oh, do you need to go number 1 or number 2? You know, we go to such great lengths not to say the word. We have these extremely creative metaphors, like pinching a loaf, releasing the chocolate hostage, dropping a Stanley steamer, ditching the brown kids at the pool. I even heard one time, I gotta go to the Oval Office to conduct business and do some paperwork. Huh? I gotta go push some legislation through the Senate. What? I gotta go take a Hillary and take a Trump. Oh, I get it. Right, okay. I'll let you decide which one is which. But it's natural. Everyone does it, right? I used to be like that, but then I met my wife. Not a lot of people know this, but she's a second-generation colon hydrotherapist. Colon, what? I don't even know what that is. How can you be a second generation of such a thing? Well, it's true. She gives people enemas. And basically, she'll shove a hose up your butt, and you'll get the shit cleaned out of you. She learned how to do this from her mom, and then carried on the family trade. Sounds shitty, I know. But colonics aren't so weird. Very natural. In fact, did you know that Jesus was a colon hydrotherapist of sorts? I know what you're thinking. Baptism. But it was a different process. Though maybe sometimes they combine the two, I'm not sure. But you know, back then in the biblical days, they were all doing it. Some of his disciples really took it on. I mean, there was the Baptist, John. I mean, where do you think he got his name from? Speaking of unfortunate names, true story about the term crapper. Did you know that in the 1800s there was a Sir Thomas Crapper? I shit you not. He was a royal plumber who manufactured toilets and installed only the finest of thrones. Crapper. Now that's a surname you don't hear anymore, do you? Pretty sure you will never shake hands with a Mr. John Crapper. Not sure if you'd want to either. Never know where his hands have been. Woo. All right. Ah, shit. We're all full of it. And we can get so anal about crap, right? Constipation, it's a real problem in our society. Don't you ever wonder how many of the world's problems could be solved by a couple of colonics or a laxative? And aren't there certain professions more associated with anal retention than others? Yes, we should start with them first. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why Jesus came to earth in the first place. He wanted to go after, the politicians, the moneylenders, Health Canada. Jesus, you can come back anytime. We're still having problems with them. I respect Jesus. I can relate to him. I mean, he was the original hippie and hipster. I liked his style. Long hair, big beard, barefoot sandals, lived in his bathrobe. He didn't work. He just traveled, talking peace and love everywhere he went. I don't know if you know this, but Jesus, he was actually started the self-help movement. He conducted some of the first personal development seminars, and he was the original health and fitness expert. If it wasn't for Jesus, you wouldn't have your Wayne Dyers, your Tony Robbins, or your bulletproof enemas. I know what you might be thinking, just talking shit about this Jesus guy, but it's true. If you don't believe me, it's right there in the scriptures. You just got to read the right version, of course, because you know how they like to change things in there. I mean, the truth is so far removed from what the Bible is today, you would think that no women existed back then, right? But there were two, the hooker and his mother, both named Mary. And 13 dudes hanging out in the desert all together? Don't tell me they didn't get up to things they had to take out of the Gospels. But don't worry, I'll fill you in. All right? So for tonight, as I was planning this, I figured, sure, I can get up here, I can entertain you with just my zoo joke. But how about I go a little bit deeper? How about I share a little spiritual comedy, mix in some toilet humor and swear words with some kind of enlightening and transformational stuff? So I credit Jesus with some of the best bathroom reading material. In particular, the Gospel of Peace. And if you haven't heard of this here, the legend goes, the Essene Gospels of Peace, these were some lost texts. They're part of the Dead Sea Scrolls. These were things that were removed from the Bible, hid in the basement of the Vatican. Basically Bible outtakes, that they couldn't leave in. And what was really interesting in this gospel, straight from the J-Man himself, no word of a lie, there's this whole thing about enemas. And I quote, "Seek therefore a large trailing gourd, having a stalk the length of a man, fill it with water, and suffer the end up your hinder parts." Once you hear that, you're changed forever. Now just imagine doing it. Well, I wasn't a believer until the gourd incident. Most can't fathom that Jesus actually even said that. But if you start looking into it, all the religious symbolism, you'll see John. He had a gourd strapped right onto his belt, always at the ready. Nowadays, instead of water, you can, of course, substitute with bulletproof coffee. Jesus, put on another pot of coffee. We're going down to the river tonight. I mean, a stalk the length of a man. Can you imagine? I mean, I guess it depends what kind of stalk and length of man you're talking about. 13 dudes all alone in the desert. Lazarus, he was the only one to come out about it. He turned Jesus in, as you know, because for many of the acts, he actually didn't give consent. Which, safe words were harder back then because Jesus was always speaking in parables. You guys having fun tonight? All right, that's good. Because speaking of colonoscopies and stand-up, being a comedian, wow, that's one hell of a laxative. It's the nerves, man. I don't know how many times I had to go before the show. And apparently, the more experienced you are, it still doesn't get any better. That lineup at the washroom, it was just me and the comedians just cycling through. I guess the only thing worse than the zoo coming to go poo is hosting amateur comedy night. But getting back to enemas. I was about 23 when I first heard about Jesus and the whole gourd thing. And I had just started dating this girl who finally one day let me know what she did for a living. A second-generation colon hydrotherapist? You're not religious, are you? And on our second date, she offered to give me a colonic. I know, it was a little weird. I can't deny it, I was a little uncomfortable. I mean, imagine this. There we were, Friday night, mellow mood, candles, cozying up on the black leather sofa, just getting to know each other, and she out-pops the question. Naturally, I'm a little taken aback. I mean, are you sure we're ready for this? I don't know if I should. This is a big jump in our relationship. And to be honest, as much as I wanted to commit and open up a new chapter in my life, I'm struggling with the idea. But then I asked myself that one famous question: what would Jesus do? Following the word of the Lord, without hesitation, I dropped my pants, I jumped on that table and was ready to embrace deeper levels of intimacy in our new relationship. I said yes, and it was a mystical, transcendental, come-to-Jesus moment. And the truly ineffable part, I tell you, no word of a lie, over my first 3 sessions, I lost 5 pounds in a weekend. Whoa, I was shocked. I'm not a big guy, right? So I guess my older brother was right all the years when he was saying, Malcolm, you're so full of shit. Just didn't know he meant it so literally. So there I was, 5 pounds lighter, smile on my face, and born again. I felt lighter, cleaner, and clearer. Saintly even. I guess cleanliness is next to godliness. And my angel's trumpet was cleaner than a whistle. So I started thinking, this must be like one of those miracles in the Bible. I mean, there was no doubt. I had just experienced a miracle. I just had something shoved up my ass and stuff came out that not even the book of Revelations talks about. So now I'm thinking about all of other Jesus' miracles. In particular, the one about the breadbasket and the multiplying of loaves, which personally, I always doubted. But now I was getting it. That's right. It was a parable. He wasn't feeding them, he was cleaning them. Him and his boy John go in there, start giving enemas. He was now pinching loaves. I question all the miracles. I mean, Jesus probably only walked on water because he had the gourd the length of a man stuck up his backside. And if the bread incident was a parable, perhaps those 2 Marys might know what the whole fish thing was about. All right, there you have it. You have just been witness to the holy trinity of comedy. Amalgamy of toilet humor, swear words, and blasphemy. I think I'm going to hell for that set, so I hope it was worth it. All right. And just some final words, in closing, since this was my first time at stand-up, it kind of was reminiscent of this first weekend of getting those colonics. And for me, that was, I never really knew I had it in me. So if you've enjoyed my toilet humor enlightenment, and then perhaps too, I, like Jesus, might have a second coming. So just believe and stay ready. Thank you very much.